Happy Sunday, Tampa Bay. We're with you for another week here on the Duncan Duo Real Estate Show, like we are every Sunday, 10 o'clock, talking to you about the Tampa Bay real estate market. When we aren't on air, make sure you're following all of our social channels. We are at the Duncan Duo, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, you name it, we're there. Always dropping knowledge on what's going on in Tampa real estate. And you know what? It has been a massively crazy year. 2024 for Tampa real estate. We have seen home sales up. We've seen home sales down. We've seen storms. And you need to stay in the loop. You need to know what's going on. If you're a homeowner or you're thinking about buying a home, you need to make sure to follow us because we will get you the information that you need about what is going on in Tampa Bay real estate. So again, at the Duncan Duo, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, every social out there. And then DuncanDuo.com. If you're someone that wants to know what's going on in your neighborhood, do you want to know if any of the homes that got flooded out enter into foreclosure? Do you want to know, what's going on with the value of homes in your neighborhood? Do you want an instant cash offer? Whatever it is, if you're a homeowner, you should be subscribed to our home value checklist at DuncanDuo.com. Again, that is DuncanDuo.com. You can do it quickly on your phone. You can also text us at 813-359-8990. So I want to talk about something that I put out on my socials a few days ago, and it relates to, really correlates well with the election. If you saw from the election, the mass media clearly was pretty far off. They were all predicting a Kamala Harris victory. The polls were all off except for a few that nailed it, that didn't get much publication. And what it made me think about was how often I see national news stories about real estate and how far off they are. So if you pay attention to the national news, one thing you have to understand about the national news is it's meant to do one of two things, either to keep eyes on it to sell headlines or to convince you that their viewpoint is right. So it's why if you look at multiple different news sources, you'll see them all have a different take on a particular item. It's because they're not really reporting the news anymore. It's more or less opinion, or they're reporting an angle that they want to promote because that's what they align with. So when it comes to real estate, it's really important that you not pay attention to the national news. Again, because they're doing one of two things. They're either wanting to find a source or a piece of information that they can promote that does one of two things: keeps you watching, or it pushes a narrative. So when it comes to real estate, the best place to get real estate news and information is your local real estate agent. Obviously, in this instance, it would be my company. So following us on all of our social channels and going to our website and submitting your home. And there's multiple reasons why. The first one is because the local real estate agent like us, like the Duncan Duo team, we're in the trenches every day. Okay, so we're seeing what's happening in real time. We're looking at hits on our website. We're seeing monthly home sales. We're seeing how many homes cancel. And so when you extrapolate that nationally, a national trend might not apply locally. And also the data. One of the most common used sources of data for the national news sources is the Case-Shiller report. The Case-Shiller report, sometimes they're promoting data that's 60 or 90. They're talking about home sales from the last quarter. They're talking about home sales from the third quarter. We're in the fourth quarter. Stuff that happened in August, especially in Tampa Bay right now, stuff that happened in August is a whole other world. It's a whole other planet. It's not even relevant because we just got hit with two storms and then, of course, the chaos from the election. So the point I want to make to you is when it comes to the news source, obviously most people have now, I think if you look at accurate polling data, there's a massive distrust for the national mainstream media when it comes to reporting on politics because they've had it wrong so many times and because it's been so clear they're biased. Well, pretty much everything becomes politics in one way or another. Everything is an angle. So when it comes to real estate, I want you to have that same distrust for whatever you see come out from the national media, simply because it's got an angle, it's biased, or it's old data, or it's national data. Okay, and national data isn't relevant for Tampa Bay. New York may have had a great summer. They didn't really, but another state may have had a great summer for real estate, and it makes the national statistics look a little bit off. When you look at national real estate statistics and you apply them to a local market, that would be like saying the high temperature today in the United States of America is 73 degrees. We know that's not the case. We know the high temperature varies all over the country, and it's the same thing with the real estate market. But the mainstream media gets it wrong so often. And I used to think that they got it wrong because they were just they were misinformed or that they didn't understand. Now I think they get it wrong on purpose. They get it wrong on purpose because it's meant to get clicks, it's meant to get attention, or it's meant to push a narrative. So when it comes to real estate, when you see these national mainstream media people come out with news about real estate, discard it for the most part. Okay. It's irrelevant. It's either meant to, push you in a certain direction. It's meant to get more clicks. It's old data, or it's national data that doesn't apply locally to your home. I've seen so many people come to us and say things like, I saw in the news that the home sales are down, or I saw in the news that home sales are up. And it's completely contradictory to what's happening in Tampa Bay because they're getting their news from, Fox or CNBC or MSNBC or CNN. Unfortunately, some people go there. So the reality is that when it comes to real estate, the best source of information is going to be the local real estate agent. They're going to have the most up-to-date, accurate information. They're looking at the MLS stats every day, and they're looking at it to give you the best advice possible to help them in their business, but help you make decisions, not for clickbait and not because they want to push a narrative. Because whether home sales are up or home sales are down, real estate agents profit and prosper either way. They simply pivot in one direction or another, especially the best ones like my team. When the market is super hot, we're representing a lot of buyers. Home prices are rising. We're getting bidding wars. We're selling homes, a lot of homes. When home sales are down, we're pivoting and looking at things like, hey, where can we make proper investments? Can we buy more investment properties? Can we help more investors take advantage of this little lull period? So we're simply pivoting. So market up or market down to someone like my team, it really doesn't matter. We're pivoting and then positioning our clients in the best possible position, no matter what is happening. So that's really kind of my take on people that watch the news. If they got politics, as much money as goes into the political campaigns. I think I saw that, the Harris Biden campaign had, or not Harris Biden, but Harris Walz campaign had $1 billion spent, and President Trump, I think, had maybe $350 million, so maybe a third of what they spent. The reality is, if you look at how much money goes into that, how much media went out about it, and how wrong they were, the real estate market is a small sliver of the things that they report on. There's not nearly as much money going into it. And if they got the what sells their services the most that wrong, how off are they when it comes to a news type that doesn't have nearly as much attention or money spent on it? I'm telling you, don't pay attention to the national news when it comes to real estate. They're wrong. They're wrong all the time. People make decisions based on it. And what they really need to do is, if they're weighing the idea of buying or selling, they need to talk to a great local real estate team like ours. They need to look at the data that's current. They need to look at what's going on in their neighborhood. And everything else is mostly irrelevant. Everything else is mostly irrelevant. It just is. So looks like we dodged another storm. There was a lot of my prepping for today's show was going to be reminding people about some of the storm prep they need to take care of, because it looked like we were going to have another one, and now it seems to have turned, and hopefully that means the hurricane season is over. But think of the lessons that happened this hurricane season that it taught you. And what it taught me was that more and more customers, even if not required by their lender, need flood insurance. Even if FEMA, who has no clue what they're doing, says that a property needs flood insurance. The whole premise for how FEMA picks and decides what needs and doesn't need flood insurance is the craziest thing. It makes absolutely no sense. Do not trust them. Okay. Now, your flood insurance will be cheaper if you're not in a flood zone and your elevation is a certain point. but that doesn't mean you're more or less likely to flood. It's why thousands of people in Tampa Bay didn't have flood insurance or were in flood zone X and got flooded anyway. Okay. We are a peninsula. We are, especially like South Tampa. I mean, it's even a peninsula within a peninsula. Okay. Like if you are in an area near the water, AKA our whole area, okay, you should have flood insurance. And fortunately, if you didn't get hit this time, maybe the next one is the one that does, because there are countless customers out there that lost everything from this storm that didn't have proper flood insurance. So I want to encourage everyone out there, if you don't have flood insurance, look into it, look into the pricing, ask yourself, can you afford it? And ask yourself, can you afford not to have it if something happens? And those are the determining factors. Can you afford it? And then can you afford not to have it? Because so many people didn't have it and have lost everything. So I really want you to spend this non-hurricane season. After we get past, I think, a cold front's coming in, we're not going to have hurricanes. It looks like, hopefully, we've got a couple weeks left, but the likelihood is that we're out of hurricane season. We're going to get a little chillier, and then it becomes much less likely. So if that's the case, use this off season. Save up maybe if you can't. Obviously, we know that flooding is much less likely during non-hurricane season, so you have a little bit of time, but don't wait till the last minute. Don't wait until storms start popping out in the Gulf and in the ocean. Get flood insurance now. Do the research. Talk to some insurance agents. I can't recommend it enough. I took too many phone calls over the last month, spoke to too many people that lost it all simply because they didn't want to spend a few $100 a month. I mean, we're talking a couple of Starbucks trips. And to save hundreds of thousands of dollars, possibly, should you get hit, is a massive risk that way too many people have. So again, flood insurance, strongly recommend it, no matter where you live, no matter what FEMA says, no matter what your lender says, and truthfully, no matter what your real estate agent says. Okay, it's not a matter of whether or not it's required. It's a matter of whether or not you should responsibly get it. We are on an island, basically. We're a peninsula. Okay. South Tampa is a peninsula. Florida is a peninsula. If you're even in remote doubt that you should or shouldn't have flood insurance, get it. And we'll be back. We're going to continue this conversation after a quick break here on the Duncan Duo Show. So we're back here on the Duncan Duo Show talking about the Tampa Bay real estate market. My first segment, I talked about, really filtering the national news media and not paying attention to it when it comes to real estate articles and real estate news, because how often they're wrong and how often they're slanted. So make sure if you missed that, you can go to the iHeart. Streaming page. You can go check out the app. You can get our podcast and our reruns always on there. We put them on YouTube as well. So make sure that you're going and checking that out because, again, it is just, I can't tell you how common it is for the national news to be off when it comes to real estate and what's going on in our real estate market. I want to talk next. I want to give some advice to people out there that did get hit with storms. I know you have insurance. I know there's a lot of people out there still going through their insurance, and it'll take a long time before their home gets completely repaired. But one thing that I learned this week that I want to make sure everyone is aware of is that all of our local counties have an opportunity for you to apply for a waiver of your property taxes based on devastation from a natural disaster. Now, I can't confirm whether or not you'll get approved, but our counties have this on the property appraiser websites where you can apply and say if your home was catastrophically damaged, that you would like to get a refund or a reduction. I think it's a straight rebate, like it wipes the slate clean. But I've not gone through the process yet myself. So I've seen the applications. I do have a particular property of my own that I believe qualifies. So I want to make sure people are aware of the opportunity that they have to be able to apply for that financial relief. I know that there are, I think I saw, tens of thousands of homes in Tampa Bay that are flooded and uninhabitable now. So if you are one of those owners, make sure that, you're getting all the relief possible. There are tax benefits or tax protections. And then, of course, there's some property tax relief for everyone out there. So you should be able to Google that. You should be able to go to the appropriate property appraiser websites to get that information. You can also message us on any of our socials, and we'll point you in the direction of the application if you can't find it. But all the counties, if you're listening to this show, all of our counties have it. It may be a Florida thing. I just know I know the application. I found it on multiple county property appraiser sites in the areas that we cover. So make sure that you are looking into that. If you're someone that was in a home that got, massively damaged from the storm. So I want to make sure that everyone is aware of that. So again, you're listening to the Duncan Duo Real Estate Show. When we aren't on air, make sure to follow us on all of our socials at The Duncan Duo, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and Facebook, and DuncanDuo.com when we aren't on air for your home value estimate and to get an instant cash offer. I'm going to talk really quickly about homeowners associations. Look, there's some great HOAs out there, and there are some that really lack. And I want to make sure that anyone listening to this show really doesn't just research the house that they're going to buy, but they research how the condo board or HOA board has managed that community, including looking at the financials, including looking at the rules, including asking some homeowners. When you're buying a home, your real estate agent's representing you, but it's your job to do due diligence. You're spending a lot of money, you're borrowing a lot of money. And your real estate agent is going to provide you documents, okay? They're going to provide you the HOA bylaws. They've got to. They're going to provide you the condo documents. They've got to. They can't read them for you, though, okay? You have to read them. And I can't tell you how many people don't read them. And then they're upset because somebody didn't tell them something. Well, real estate agents don't read 100 pages of bylaws, okay? That is your job. That's your due diligence. A real estate agent helps you find a house, helps you navigate through the process, but you still have a part in doing your own due diligence. So you need to read those documents, and you need to understand them. And if you don't, then you need to ask questions. You need to call the condo association. You need to call the president of the HOA. You need to call and do your due diligence. We have represented countless customers who've bought into a neighborhood and then they want to move because they didn't know. Well, they could have known if they'd have done their homework, and they didn't. So make sure you're talking and doing some research on the HOA and the condo board. Talk to some other owners. If it's a condo, look, try and meet some people in some of the common areas and ask them questions. Go there on a weekend. If it's a single family home community, drive through a neighborhood, get out and walk. Okay, and ask some of the neighbors that are out in their yards doing yard work or walking to their car, ask them what their thoughts are on some of the rules and the bylaws in the community. And again, read the documents. And I want to caution you, because I see this happen too much. If you are going to go into a neighborhood, okay, get and ask questions of people, get out of your car. When I see people pull up, you can see that there's a sense of uncomfortability if you pull up on somebody, roll down the window, and try to talk to them from your car. So get out of your car and walk around, and I promise you'll be more likely to get people being comfortable talking to you. Just say, hey, I'm a buyer. I'm looking in the neighborhood. I want to know what's going on, or I'm under contract on this home and I'm in my inspection period. I want to know, what are your thoughts on the HOA rules? What are some of the worst HOA rules? What are some of the best ones? How do they enforce these things? But just as important as talking to some current owners in that community or neighborhood, read the documents. You're going to be provided them. You have to. Most of them are of public record. You can go to the county clerk site, or you can Google the neighborhood and find the website. Most of them you can find publicly yourself. But you're going to be provided them. But people open them up and say, oh, it's 100 pages. I don't want to read this. And then 6 months later, it's going to cost them a bunch of money because they didn't want to read when they find out something the association does, they don't agree with it or they don't like. So please, please, please do your due diligence, not just on the property, but on the HOA or the condo board that you're going to buy into. You can't rely on your real estate agent for that. They can't answer your questions on that. That's not what they're qualified to do. You need to call, you need to do your due diligence, and you need to know what's going on in an association before you move in to a neighborhood. So hopefully this information is helpful. We'll be back on the other side talking about the Duncan Duo Real Estate Show after a quick break. So we're back here talking about we're talking on the Duncan Duo Real Estate Show about the Tampa Bay real estate market. And we have to deal with this issue with escrow deposit and earnest money deposits so often. So I want to help everyone understand what it means to put up escrow, what the requirements are, and then, unfortunately, the path to either getting yours back or canceling or seeking escrow. So first and foremost, a lot of people misunderstand what earnest money is. They're like, well, I put up my money as a deposit. Once you put up an earnest money deposit, it's nobody's money anymore, okay? It is the transaction's money. It's not your money anymore. It is the money for the transaction owns that money. You don't anymore, okay? There are way too many people. It is kind of the glue that kind of keeps everything together. There are too many people that misunderstand the path to getting their deposit back. So first and foremost, the majority of the time that an escrow deposit is going to be returned or provided to one party or another, it is going to require both parties to sign off on it, okay? So I'll give you an example. You put up an earnest money deposit and you do your inspection, and during your inspection period, you cancel, okay? Now, the likelihood is if it ever turned into a dispute, you would end up getting that back, or there would be some sort of legal process, or a board or a board of realtors would get involved. The reality is that title companies typically release escrow deposits when both parties agree. Now, what ends up happening is in that instance, you're canceling, you're in your inspection period, you want your money back, okay? The real estate agent is in an advisory role, okay? We can't release escrow. For the most part, real estate agents and brokers don't hold escrow. They are allowed to, okay? But I can tell you as a standard of practice, because the liability that comes along with it, most don't want to. Most will not hold escrow, okay? Because they don't want to get stuck into these disputes and litigation. They allow the title companies, or they encourage title companies to hold the escrow, or attorneys to hold the escrow. So when there is a disagreement, real estate agents really can't fix anything. You can't call and scream at a real estate agent and say, make them sign it, okay? Because a buyer and seller, under their own will, have to sign a release so that the title company or attorney can release it. If one of those parties doesn't want to do something, the real estate agent doesn't have any authority to force them. We can encourage them. We can give them advice. We can explain and say, hey, you're going to end up losing, and they may pursue you for attorney fees, and or you need to be honorable. We can certainly encourage and give them advice and tell them about our experience, but we don't have a right to tell them or force them to sign anything. We get people all the time where a deal will cancel, the seller and buyer disagree, and people are calling the real estate agents and screaming at them, telling them to get them their money back. Well, it's not your money. It's the transaction's money, number one. And number two, we have no role in it. We can't do anything except talk to people. We can't sign it away. So if you have situations where a buyer or seller doesn't agree with the other party on the release, and it's very common, what ends up happening is a dispute happens, and the parties can talk to their own lawyers. The parties can end up going to mediation to try and resolve it. Now, most of the times the deposits are small enough to where it just doesn't make sense to turn it into this dispute and cost either party money when they're likely to lose. And that's where the real estate agent will step in and encourage and maybe give some advice. But we'll have people call and threaten us. We're going to take you to court because they're not giving me my deposit back. We don't have anything to do with it. We can't make them sign something, okay? They don't agree to it. They disagree. And so you're just going to have to go through the process. So deposits, they're not your money anymore. They're not the seller's money. They're not the buyer's money. They're the transaction's money, okay? And if both parties sign off on it, then it's an easy path to getting the deposit back should a transaction cancel. Now, I want to continue and talk about the, so again, earnest money, held in deposit by a title company or an attorney typically. Okay. Real estate agents in our area do not want to hold it. All right. So when a deal cancels, both parties agree, they sign a form and the escrow goes back. If both parties don't agree, then there's a process to handle that. And the process to handle that isn't one or the other parties yelling and threatening and expecting the other party to move. You're just going to make it worse. Okay. So if there's a disagreement, there's a process that has to be followed. And that's just the way that it works. So even though you may believe you have a right to cancel the contract based on the terms of the contract, there's a process that has to happen that if the other party doesn't agree, then you have to go through a process. There's no way for you to get that money back until or unless there is a court hearing or a mediation or a third party review like a board of realtors, if both parties can agree to it. So hopefully that is helpful. I want to talk next about, kind of some other parts of escrow deposits, why it's important. Now, when you're in a competitive market and there's high demand and low supply, you've got to be more willing to put up a higher deposit because it makes your offer look stronger. And sometimes even making your deposit non-refundable should you not perform per the terms of the contract. In a colder market, you can make a lower escrow deposit, okay? So you can see anywhere, there's times where people ask us, hey, what's the standard? And there really isn't one, okay? They can range anywhere from, a few $100 to, 10, 20, 30+% of the purchase price. It all depends. It depends on how competitive the situation is for that particular property. It depends on how competitive the market is and the terms of the market at that time. But the market dynamics, whether it's a buyer's market, whether it's a seller's market, the value of the property, okay, regional variations. You'll see in some areas of the country where escrow deposits are less and some where they're more. Another one that's common is new home construction. Builders require a lot of times very high earnest money deposits. And a lot of times the builders have the ability to use the earnest money for construction rather than holding it in an escrow account, and are much less likely to give it back to you should you not perform per the terms of the contract. So hopefully that helps explain, what happens with earnest money. Earnest money is also something that's a real common scam. There are people that will hack title company and real estate agents' email accounts or mimic them to try and convince you that, they'll get your email, know you're under contract on a house, and then try and mimic an email to you to give you wiring instructions so that they can basically steal your escrow money, or they can steal, your deposit. So really important when it comes to escrow deposit is to verbally confirm that. If someone emails you or texts you, and maybe you think it's a real estate agent, maybe you think that it is, or maybe you think it's a title agent. Okay, real estate agents typically aren't the ones sending the escrow information. It's usually going to come from title agents or a title attorney. Title attorney's office, not the attorney themselves. If you get an email or a text with earnest money deposit wiring instructions, call the title company and verify that. Okay, please make sure you do not just blindly send. There are, so many scams that happen, and millions and millions of dollars that get stolen from real estate consumers every year because consumers get spoofed into sending wiring or a wire to false wiring instructions. So hopefully that's helpful for you and it helps you avoid chaos in the future. So again, we're listening to the Duncan Duo Real Estate Show. When we aren't on air, follow us on all of our socials at the Duncan Duo, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and TikTok. A lot of people asking me like, hey, what do you expect to happen with the real estate market now that Trump is is the president-elect? Well, first and foremost, he's not in office yet. Okay. So, as far as any kind of short-term impact, there's certainly more of an energy out right now where people are excited. I do think that it has moved the needle in more than one way. One, because, Florida was 57%, I think, for President Trump. So he had a pretty wide margin of victory. So our state is looking a lot more like Trump supporters than non-Trump supporters. Second reason why I would say is just the fact that the election is over. Okay. Even if someone was a Harris supporter, Trump's numbers on the economy were really high. So even Harris supporters are now relieved that the election is over so they can make appropriate choices. So I do believe 2025 for Tampa Bay and nationally will be a better real estate year. I think in Tampa Bay, we have a few things working in our favor. Number one, obviously the election is over. Number two, we've had two historically low sales months in September and October because the storms. Homes that pushed, homes that canceled, storms, homes that were destroyed. So the fact that we had those 2 months, it pulled down the entire year because of how bad those months were. And it knocked a lot of buyers off the fence, knocked a lot of sellers off the fence. A lot of that will clear itself out. Going back to Cat 4 storms in history, 6 months post the storm, sales are right back up again. Most people are predicting for our market, we're going to have a little bit of a slow period for a few months, and then enough of those homes start to get rebuilt. Enough people start to come back to the area. You get enough of the destruction. The destruction, the gutted houses that are sitting in the door. You get enough of that cleaned up because we've always sold Florida as paradise, right? You're coming down here. We've got this beautiful climate. It's warm year round and we don't snow. And all those things are reasons why a certain percentage of the country wants to live here. So all of those things contribute to a return of population growth and a return of real estate supply and demand. At the same time, we have a pro-real estate president who's a real estate developer, who's a former real estate broker. He's a real estate guy. I believe he's going to pass policies and move regulation or deregulation in the favor of helping the real estate market. And last but not least, an economy that appears to be heading in a direction with lower interest rates, which causes more buyers to come off the fence and more sellers to sell their homes where they have low interest rates so they can buy a home with low interest rates. A lot of people don't want to give up their homes and are staying put because they got a low interest rate. As interest rates drop, some of that demand comes back. So all of those are reasons why I'm really optimistic about the real estate market in 2025. I think smart money right now is looking at acquiring assets and buying more real estate so that they can benefit in 2025. But I do believe 2025 will be a really, really healthy real estate market. And my hope and expectation is that rates drop throughout the year and hopefully we get back on track with a more reasonable interest rate. And do I think we're going to see 2 percentage points again? Probably not for a really long time, but if we can get it down into 4s and 5s, I think it'll really launch our market, and Tampa Bay will see a really strong 2025. So that's my hope, that's my belief, and that's my expectation about what I expect to happen in Tampa Bay real estate in 2025. We're going to wrap up with our last segment back on the other side after a quick break here on WFLA. So we're back here on the Duncan Duo Show talking about the Tampa Bay real estate market. Covered escrow deposits in the last segment. Also covered my predictions for 2025 real estate, and gave some people some advice about how to handle the storm and real estate, and just the disagreement I have with national mainstream media about real estate reporting. Please make sure you're talking to local real estate agents. Follow us. Follow the advice we're putting out. To see the statistics we're putting out. They're in real time. They're accurate. They're not months old. They're not national data. It's what's going on in Tampa Bay. I also talked about how if you have a damaged home from the storm, catastrophic damage, you have the ability to apply for some relief on your property taxes in all of our local counties. So make sure that you're paying attention to what's going on there. And I talked all things escrow deposits, getting your escrow deposit back, what happens with the escrow deposit, how to handle the escrow deposit in hot markets and slow markets. So if you missed any of those segments, jump onto our YouTube channel or go into iHeart and listen to, the rerun of our show. Next, I want to talk to real estate investors. This is probably, I always like to find the silver lining, and I like to look at things from a positive perspective. And to me, this is the best opportunity to acquire some great assets for real estate investors. We've had this lull in home sales. We've still got, kind of high interest rates. Our real estate market hasn't been as good. There's a lot of information leading people to think 2025 is better. It's going to be better. And so the best time to buy real estate is before it goes up, right? And if it always goes up, the best time to buy is right now. And so in my opinion, that's what we're dealing with right now. We're dealing with the opportunity. If rates are high, congratulations, you have a great opportunity to get a better price. If we've had a bunch of storms and people are burned out and they want to move, congratulations, you have a great opportunity to get a better price. If, homes are damaged, people aren't going to be able to sell them unless they take a haircut a little bit. Congratulations, you have an opportunity to get a great price. There hasn't been, in my opinion, since the Great Recession, a better opportunity for real estate investors in Tampa Bay to grab up amazing assets at discounts that they will end up winning with later on. I don't think the foundational principles of our real estate market are weak long term. I think we're going to have some short-term depreciation and reduction in home sales that I think roars back in 2025. Once the storms aren't the major news cycle anymore and there's been enough happen, there are going to be people wanting to move to Florida. In fact, I think there are going to be just as many, if not more, people wanting to come to Tampa Bay because now the monkey on our back of we've never been hit. We've never had a storm hit us. It's gone. Now we have. Now more people, I think, would be more likely to say, oh, well, now that they had the big one, probably not going to have another big one for a while. We're a little safer to move down or buy in Florida now. So I think there hasn't been a greater opportunity to acquire some great assets in residential real estate than in a long time in my real estate career. So if that is you, reach out to us. We have investors. We have agents that are investors. They're specifically dialed into finding off-market homes, specifically dialed into helping you buy homes that have flood damage, specifically dialed into helping you get great deals. Because right now it's the best opportunity for you to get a great deal. You may lose that when we get back to dropping rates. Because when rates drop and prices go up, bidding wars happen, and then you're overpaying for homes. You have a great opportunity right now to buy stuff for the long term that will massively benefit you. So if you're an investor, if you're thinking about buying, hit us up at theduncanduo.com. Text us what you're looking for. 813-359-8990. We are always representing investors. We have agents that are investors themselves and specifically focus on that, and they can hone in and focus specifically on what kind of property you're looking for. We can look and see what we have in our database of our coming listings, and then we can target market to find homes specifically that you're looking for. So if that's something of interest to you, again, reach out to us, 813-359-8990. Call into our office, let them know what you're looking for, or go to theduncanduo.com, start your search there, or an agent's going to reach out and then you can let them know specifically. But yes, as an investor myself, I always like to look for the positives. Of course, what we went through was horrific. Of course, it's massively bad for our area in the short term. But there's always opportunity in crisis. And if you're a real estate investor right now, I think there is opportunity out there for you to get some great assets and take advantage of the situation. And I don't mean to take advantage of people. I mean to take advantage of a situation. And that's what every investor is. Every investor is opportunistic. They want to look for the best opportunity to buy and sell. And there are people who are just ready to move, that are ready to move on, and that will be happy taking a bit of a haircut to not have to deal with the stress of another hurricane season here in Tampa Bay. So real estate investors, reach out to us. Hit us up at theduncanduo.com. Go to any of our social channels. Send us a DM at the Duncan Duo, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. We'd love to help you find some generational assets for yourself. Maybe you want to acquire land. Maybe you want to flip houses. Maybe you want to buy more rentals. We have agents on our team that specialize in all of the above. And again, we would love to help you. So as always, we appreciate you tuning in. If you want to sell your home, if you want a cash offer, if you're ready to move, if you're one of those people that I talked about, go to duncanduo.com. We can get you an instant cash offer. We can let you know what's going on in your neighborhood. How many homes are flooded? Is it going to impact values? Are there going to be short sales and foreclosures in your neighborhood? You can find that out and more at duncanduo.com. And we'll be back next week to continue our conversation. Have an awesome rest of your Sunday, Tampa Bay.